Okay, my fourth installment of Seminole Clothing, we're going to talk about patchwork, everyone's favorite. About 1900, Seminole Clothing, it was calico cloth, trade cloth, and they got the sewing machines about 1915, around there, and started taking off with the patchwork. Uh, Kind of the theory is the Miccosukee first started it, and then it kind of spread to the rest of the Seminoles, and uh, they think it is a reaction to the tourism industry. Is that people came to where the Seminoles were camping in Miami and wanted to buy the clothing off their back. Patchwork originally started just strips of colored cloth, and then once they got the sewing machines, they start out. It originally was very big bands of patchwork, and it got smaller and more complicated over time. Always a lot of different colors. You can easily date the postcards from how the postcards are made, or some of the men's clothing. Women's clothing, is a little harder to date, put a date on a certain piece of clothing, because the women have kind of been either consistent in the style, or it doesn't matter how many rows of patchwork, either one row or four rows of patchwork on a skirt. It seems to be just individual preference. But people, once kind of the golden age of tourism, right after World War II, people were visiting the Seminoles and Miccosukees in South Florida, and they're buying these clothing. So that's kind of what the Seminoles are known for, is the colorful patchwork clothing. Uh, and that's before the reservations were actually organized, where they really worked hard to develop something that people would buy and make it colorful and unique. And I think patchwork, it needs to be preserved as a unique art form or culture of the Florida people. It's my own preference. I believe that everyone in Florida should be wearing patchwork. It says, hey, this is our state, or we're from Florida. This is what makes us unique. And the patchwork, it starts with just strips of cloth, and then they take that and cut it up and reposition, or first they put an angle like this here, and it takes off from there. There's plenty of books on Seminole patchwork that you can buy and find out how you do yourself. This is some bands of patchwork I bought at one of the Seminole tribal festivals, and flipping it over, you can see on the back how it's cut and angled and repositioned. And really, every design on patchwork is just a reinterpretation of that same thing, just strips of cloth cut and repositioned. And this is a more common design here. And it's not only on clothing, it's also on placemats and ball caps, like you see here. And even some of the western tribes has started to make patchwork. Here's a jacket I purchased in 1993 at Hollywood Reservation. It has some of the older style bands of patchwork, the diamond and the fire design. In '95, because I'm a Desert Storm veteran, I got a veteran's jacket with the base pattern underneath as a Desert Storm camouflage with red, white, and blue bands of patchwork. And it kind of simplified it. Now you have sport shirts that might have one band of patchwork, and that's very common, actually. And here's a t-shirt. I think a friend of mine picked this up in Oklahoma, and that's a band of patchwork. That's not silkscreen. This is an older style skirt, woman's skirt with calico and a strip of patchwork. And this is where they took a western motif design as the base and two bands of patchwork. Here's the boy's shirt with some calico and the patchwork strips added on the front facing. This shirt to a small boy, this like a buffalo dance shirt. And no patchwork, there's just strips of colored cloth and rick-rack. And you actually see a lot of that too. And here's another shirt I had. I call this watercolors. They're very colorful and kind of base color, or fancy base design, and just strips of cloth and rick-rack added. No patchwork on this one either. And here's a shirt I purchased this summer, man on horse design, and it seems like they're almost going back to the older designs, because this shirt almost goes to my knees, almost kind of like the older traditional style. Here's a coat. I actually made this. This is my park ranger patchwork coat. And here's another shirt I made, and I've given that to an FSU student, Florida State University Seminoles. Looks like a patchwork design is state of Florida. Well, I hope you enjoyed my quick little demonstration of the patchwork. Feel free to put comments or start a discussion below. Thank you.